So I wanted to bring this to y'all's attention as well. There is this guy, Kim Clement, and he died in like 2015 or 2016. He predicted a lot, including Trump becoming president. I'm pretty sure. Let's just verify. Yeah, okay. So 2007 he did. Anyways, um change so what what exactly? So he's predicted a lot of things that were going to happen in the year 2025. What? Let's see. Spiritual revival in July 25. Uh, Prophecy. Clement spoke of a shifting revival coming to America with the Spirit of the Lord entering the White House. He foresaw worship, intercession, and prayer gatherings in Washington, D.C., marking a spiritual awakening. He also mentioned God stopping a shaking in the Pacific Northwest to allow the right leaders to rise. Um, and the like the earthquake swarms that are happening a mile out off the coast of like San Francisco, Washington, that area. I don't know if it's a mile. It might be like 50 miles or whatever, but there's like hundreds of earthquakes happening there right now. So it's interesting that um, he saw the stopping of the shaking in the Pacific. Restoration and a year of grace. A year of grace. Um, that's interesting. Natural signs and divine signals. A godly leader rising tied to Trump. Delay of global conflict and rise of a new generation. So the delay just means that it's being pushed back further while this new generation rises. And it could be like the 2032 predictions or whatever. All of this is very interesting, and it's worth looking into with Grok if if you're interested. But the things that I think are interesting about it is like the financial shifts that may or may not be happening. Yes, Clement did make prophecies that interpreters, particularly from sources like House of Destiny and Christian Charisma magazine, associate with financial shifts, though they are not always explicitly detailed as economic events. These prophecies are often embedded in broader predictions about societal, spiritual, and political events. So, while this might be more like broadly focusing on spiritual aspects, like it could be speaking of like a jubilee event where we move from a fiat-based inflationary system to a crypto-based deflationary system where people um, potentially have their like sovereign rights back or whatever. I don't know if you all know, but like there's like speculation that your birth certificate number is traded on the open market and is used as like a currency. And if you were to claim that, then they would have to take that number off of the open market. but that the value that you hold, if you held your own certificate and were able to trade it and borrow against it and whatnot, is like millions of dollars. And it's not that far fetched, because a friend of mine lives in Australia, and she said that all Australians have like a birthright to money, and you can borrow against it, as like, you don't ever want to like just tap into that money. Like, I'm sure people are irresponsible. Like, I would be doing that, putting a bunch of money into XRP right now, just saying. But she said that Australians are allowed to do that, and each person has like, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, you know, it would make sense that we have that and everybody else has that. If we're the one of the richest, if not the richest country on the planet, then why wouldn't we have that right as citizens? But I think we're all kind of waking up to this anyways. So, prophecies related to financial shifts, economic restoration as part of national renewal, 2014-2015 prophecies, prophecy details. Clement spoke of a restoration in America where God would restore what was lost in personal lives, families, and society. In prophecies from 2014-2015, he described a season of grace upon grace, linked to the number 25, symbolizing 2025, which is 5 times 5. 5 by 5, you understand. um, and which included economic recovery and divine provision. He mentioned God filling the storehouses and blessing the nation with abundance after a period of shaking. Well, I don't know about y'all, but we've been in the shaking for long enough. So let's go ahead and do this one now. Okay, financial shift interpretation for 2025. Interpreters see this as a prediction of economic recovery. Okay. Policy, this is probably not going to talk about Nasara, Jasara, or like moving away from the fiat currencies. So, shaking of systems. Okay. I like the prophecy details because, this is a bit more mainstream. Clement frequently, I'm like way too like conspiracy, so I've got to be like, take me out of the mainstream portion and just keep me in the conspiracy land, because that's where my mind can kind of wander a little bit more. Clement frequently prophesied about a shaking of systems, political, cultural, and economic, as part of God's plan to expose corruption and religion and realign nations. In a 2007 prophecy, he spoke of markets and economies being oh my goodness, this is juicy. Shaken to remove greed and establish a new order. He also mentioned a time when wealth would be redistributed. Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. I'm just talking about that. Through divine intervention, not human schemes. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. I'm getting too excited. Prosperity tied to spiritual awakening. Prophecy details. In his July 25th, 2015 prophecy, Clement described a shifting revival that would impact the White House and the nation, bringing divine favor and provision. I think we already read this. He spoke of God opening the heavens to pour out blessings, which included material and financial abundance for those aligned with his purposes. So you have to be spiritually aligned with God. Okay. I think that's pretty easy for most people. Global economic realignment. So now we're going global. 2014 prophecy. In a 2014 prophecy, Clement spoke of a new economy emerging from chaos. Okay. So the old system is not going to die without a fight. Like, if you would think that like the George Soros and Rothschild, or you know, International Bank, International Monetary Fund, whatever, I don't know if they're good or bad, but the big names that we know of, and like those are not even the top names, the top names, we probably don't even know of them, like they're not going to go out without a fight. Period. They're not going to want to see this happen. They're going to want the same order, And so that's probably the reason why like a lot of these institutions like BlackRock and others are gobbling up all of the liquidity, and they're manipulating the crypto markets because they're like, yeah, we're probably going to maintain control, as much of control as possible anyway. So yes, there's a big financial shift happening, but they've got their grubby little fingers all over it already. So just saying, don't get too excited. I don't want to burst everyone's bubbles, but that's what's going on too, with all the crypto news, BlackRock investing and stuff like that. Where nations would see a shift in financial power, he predicted that America would rise as a beacon of economic strength. Okay, that's America being the crypto capital. And if we're moving to a crypto-based economy, then yeah, we're going to be like the first. Despite global turmoil, and there's tons of turmoil, look at Israel and Iran. Look at Russia and Ukraine, and there's wars and rumors of wars, and that God would use unlikely leaders to steward this change. Well, Trump is definitely unlikely. I would say Elon Musk is unlikely as well, but I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that I follow Trump like I follow God. I'm saying that Trump could be used in specific ways, thinking that he's acting for himself, but playing the hand of God. And then, it's like if you're aligned with God and somebody else comes in and aligns with you and goes out, well, they served with you side by side for that period of time. And this could be Trump coming along and like putting together this whole economic shift and all of that, and it's for the betterment of humanity and America and all of that, and then he falls back out because he did oversee Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, buying 666 Fifth Avenue in downtown New York, and all of these old buildings in New York have a bunch of tunnels, and we don't know where the Epstein files are and all that great stuff. So anyways, so yeah, that's what I wanted to share with y'all, this Kim Clement thing, because it's really interesting, and I think that it ties into crypto and the whole financial shifting happening. So now the fact that this is going on in other countries and other institutions, like old world institutions like BlackRock are getting involved, we can expect to see more manipulation, because, which in my opinion, is kind of a good thing, because more manipulation means more opportunity. But the reason why I would say there's more manipulation is because it's unregulated. I was thinking, like, when are they going to regulate this stuff? But they're just not going to. So crypto's just going to be forever unregulated or whatever. But for a long time, while there's less volume inside of, like, once BlackRock holds all the cards and all of these institutions have gobbled up all the liquidity, like the price is probably going to just be very stable. So we won't have to have like regulations like we do with the SEC and whatnot, for stocks. So, but I will I'm speculating that, like, I guess there's just not going to be regulation. So they can do whatever they want. So we could see stuff like this, 5 years from now, where it just dumps and people get rid of it thinking like, oh no, the currency crashed. Look at all the foreign currencies that are on the exotic currency list and how suppressed they are. I mean, that's a whole other rabbit hole that we could go down. And that's very interesting because there are a lot of thriving countries that have currencies on the foreign on the exotic currencies list, which makes no sense to me at all. So anyways, that's kind of what I wanted to share with y'all, this Kim Clement prophecy kind of thing. But yeah, interesting stuff. So bye.